Managing and building a healthy immune system. Stress, managing stress. I touched on this in video number 2, if you watched that, all about gut health. I've talked about stress quite a lot in these videos, so the key point I want to make is how can you minimise the amount of stress your body's under? I think a lot of us, we're overscheduled, we take on too much, we have a myriad pressures come in on us. We've got tablets and mobile phones that are binging, dinging and whirring and pulling us into the apps and demanding our attention. We've got demanding jobs. We may be the sandwich generation where we're looking after older parents and young children. We've got so much going on that stress starts to mount up, and it's insidious in that way. It builds and it builds and it builds until finally you feel like cracking under the pressure. Now, at time of recording, we're in the midst of the COVID-19 outbreak, so we're all under intense amounts of pressure, as you will well know. So there are a couple of things I want to talk about, but the main idea is about how you can minimise the stress you're under. Look at everything that's on your plate, write it down, go through this with your spouse and your family, and work out what you can minimise, what you can do without. Right, that's a pressure we can get rid of, that's a pressure we can minimise. And what you'll find is there's almost certainly something on your plate, metaphorically speaking, that you can take off that doesn't need to be worried about now. In terms of financial stress, minimise everything. Reduce all your expenditure as best you can. It's always good practice, not just in the midst of an outbreak or a pandemic like COVID-19, but at any point. Minimise your obligations to others as well. Don't stop helping people, but just don't get caught into compulsively helping other people and neglecting yourself. That's a really critical one. And ultimately, the other point I want to make is it's all about managing your nervous system. So we can endure lots of stress. We were built and designed for that. But a little bit like if I gave you a glass of water to hold out, you'd agree that a glass of water wasn't heavy and you'd be able to hold that. But after a minute or 2 or 3 minutes, your arm would start to ache. You'd want to kind of bend the arm and bring it back in and give it some relief. And that's what stress is all about. You could look at your life and think, well, it isn't so stressful necessarily. Why am I not coping? But it's not the weight of what you're holding. It's how long you're holding it for. So minimise the stress as much as you possibly can. Difficult, I know, if you're watching this in the midst of the COVID-19 outbreak. But minimise it as much as you can, and then look at ways you can manage your nervous system. So watch the video, the other videos on managing the immune system, building a healthy immune system, and really control the nervous system through things like breathing and meditation. So the one tip I want to give you around managing stress and the nervous system is box breathing. It's a simple concept. We're going to use a box that we're going to follow mentally in our minds. And you breathe in for, let's say, 4 seconds. You hold that breath for 4 seconds. You exhale for 4 seconds. And you hold that exhalation for 4 seconds. So it looks like this. And that's box breathing. You can do it anywhere, anytime. You don't need anyone else. You don't need an app. You don't need tech. Really simple. Anytime you feel yourself getting stressed, try box breathing. So it's a reactive technique, but it can also be a proactive technique. Practice doing it even when you feel great, because then you are constantly practicing bringing your nervous system from a stressed to a less stressed state. And now more than ever, that's an absolutely vital skill to have. So simple. Look to minimise. Look to manage your nervous system and try and reduce the amount of stress you're under. Very best of luck.